So good morning everyone. Today we will discuss about metacognition. So before we proceed to our discussion, let us first read the learning objectives for this topic. So for the first one is to discuss the metacognition and development. Now, to be followed by enumerate and discuss the metacognition knowledge variables. Last is to identify the characteristics of expert and novice learners. So as you can see, here is the chart of metacognition, thinking about thinking. This is the flow chart of our discussion as well. So first we will tackle on the metacognition, the definition of metacognition and development. Under this is the teaching strategies to develop metacognition, to be followed by metacognition knowledge variables. For these variables is the three variables: the person variables, task variables, and the strategy variables. Now, third is the application of metacognition leads one to be an expert learners. Under this one is the characteristic of expert learners. Then last but not the least, we will discuss the learners who do not use metacognition remain to be novice learners. So this is the characteristic of novice learners. Okay, before we proceed to anything else, let us try to reflect the statement of Cyril Howell. If you teach a person what to learn, you are preparing that person for the past. If you teach a person how to learn, you are preparing that person for the future. Let's try to reflect. Alright, the most important goal of education is to teach students how to learn on their own. It is vital that students acquire the skills of how to learn, and that these skills enable them to learn not just while they are in school, but for the lifetime. This entails a deeper awareness of how one processes information, the ability to evaluate his own thinking, and to think of ways to make his own learning process more effective. All this involve metacognition. So what do we mean by metacognition, or what is metacognition? So this appears to be such a high-sounding word that some people are confused about even before they actually spend time to find out what it really means. But did you know that metacognition is not complicated? In fact, we do metacognition activities so often in our life or in our daily lives. So hindi lang natin napapansin, no, that we do activities with metacognition. So especially when you sense that you are experiencing some difficulties with a topic, then you are studying and you try out different strategies to learn better. You are practicing already the metacognition. For example, nag-solve ka sa math, you have a math problem, or in the algebra, trigonometry, or whatsoever, then you have to try to solve in particular formula na binigay. Then, hindi mo talaga siya na-solve at all. Hindi mo nakuha ang gusto mong makuhang result. Instead, ginawa mo nag-innovate ka, na tipong inisip mo tipong, i-combine ko pala yung formula nito at saka nito, baka dito lalabas yung answer. So, by that, si metacognition ay nandun na, present na siya sa ginagawa mo because you are trying to make another strategy in order to grow, in order to develop, or in order to have that result in that certain problem, in order to have the solution in that certain problem. Metacognition is already present in that process. Alright. Educational psychologists have long promoted the importance of metacognition for supporting student learning, and it continues to be a rapidly growing field of interdisciplinary research. So, metacognition was coined by John Flavel. John Flavel is most commonly recognized for introducing the term metacognition as a result of his research in 1970s, which focused on children's knowledge and control of their memory process. Okay, so according to Flavel, this is around 1979, 1987, year 1979 and the year of 1987, metacognition consists of both metacognitive knowledge and metacognitive experiences or regulations. So as you can observe on the screen, metacognitive knowledge and metacognitive experience or regulations is highlighted, right? They are the highlighted ones. Before we proceed to what do we mean really of metacognition, so let's first tackle the highlighted words. Alright. So when we talk about metacognition knowledge, it refers, what do we mean by this? It refers to what learners know about learning. So this includes the following: the learner's knowledge of their own cognitive ability. For example, I have trouble remembering dates in history. So some of the students, some of the learners have trouble in remembering or in remembering dates in history. Not only that, but also some students have trouble in remembering names, especially when we talk about psychologists, theorists, sino-sino pa ba yung mga may ambag sa certain field. So some of students that medyo nahihirapan sila na mag-remember, and that is part of the learner's knowledge of their own cognitive abilities. Sila mismo aminado na, I myself, as an educator but as a learner as well, I have trouble remembering names, especially names of a person in Rizal, life of Rizal. Okay, so that is one of my weakness, but I try my very best to remember it at all, because it is part of our LET exam. So next, then the learner's knowledge of particular task. So example, the ideas in this chapter that I'm going to read are complex. So that would be the example under the knowledge of particular task. So for this one, this student or this learner, particular from the word itself, focused siya dun. Focused siya sa ganong lesson, or focus siya sa ganong topic. Alright? So next, last, regarding on the metacognitive knowledge, the learner's knowledge of different strategies that are available to them and when they are appropriate to the task. Example, if I scan the text first, it will help me to understand the overall meaning. Sometimes, learners, hindi nila kagad nakukuha yung root word ng isang or yung thought ng isang sentence, especially that merong nakahalong mga words na highfalutin words or hindi sila masyadong familiar. By that, kailangan nilang mag-research, they have to open their dictionaries, they have to research it in Google in order for them to understand the overall meaning of the context or for the of the sentence. Alright, so wait lang guys. Okay. So let's continue. The second one under metacognition is the metacognitive experiences or regulation. So this one, it refers to a person's awareness and feeling elicited in a problem-solving situations. So example of feelings of knowing. So that certain student or learners is already know what to do, what task to do, and what solutions or strategy to apply. Okay? So, and metacognitive skills are believed to play a role in many types of cognitive activity, such as, pasok din dito si oral communication of information, reading comprehension, attention, and memory. So, under the metacognitive experience or regulation, again, it is the feelings of knowing. So, it is the task of a learner to, they already know what to do. Alright, so proceed. Okay, so what do we mean really exactly of metacognition? So metacognition is, put simply, thinking about one's thinking. Or for the previous slide, it is thinking about thinking. Alright, so more precisely, it refers to the processes used to plan, monitor, and assess one's understanding and performance. So let's try to analyze what is thinking about thinking. The first thinking refers here for the teacher. Teacher must think about the thinking of the learners. Kailangan naman nating sumabay o as a teacher, kailangan pong sumabay. Ano ang magandang strategy na ituturo ko dito sa mga bata in order for them to learn? Kasi I know some of the learners are not expert and some of the learners are novice and some of the learners are unique. Most of them are unique. So you have to, as a teacher, you have to plan a strategy so that they can learn from that topic. That is why we, as a teacher, used to plan and then we will monitor what we apply. Of course, by planning, dapat may objective ka. Do not forget that objective is a very, very important tool, especially when in teaching. Why? Because the objective will be our goal at the end of the process. So, first is to plan with objective. Then we will monitor. After monitoring, we have to assess or to evaluate the certain strategy. After assessing, result will come out, then we will try to reflect. Right? We will try to reflect. Kaya nga, it refers to the process used to plan, monitor, and assess one's understanding and performance. So, natakil natin regarding kay teacher. How about thinking about thinking? Second thinking is about the student or the learners. When the learners is ongoing with the task, of course, kailangan din niya mag-isip ng strategy. Especially that now we are facing the 21st century K-12. Of course, na sa K-12, under K-12, we have this pandemic situation. The new normal, we have this blended learning. Pag nasa K-12 kasi, hindi tayo nag-spoon feeding sa mga bata ng kaalaman. We have them to let experience what we taught. We are just the facilitator in that activity or in that certain task. We are not giving information. They explore information. This is all about the metacognition, ha? This is all it's all in the metacognition. We still in the metacognition na topic. Okay? So in learners, of course, when they have given a certain task, of course, they use plan. Together with plan, may objective din sila, may goal din sila. Then to be followed by to monitor, then to assess kung ano talaga ang nangyari dun sa ginagawa niya, sa work niya, sa task niya. Alright, so after assessing, of course, pinaka-importante, mag-reflect. Alright, so this is the metacognition phase. As you can see, guys, ikot-ikot lang endlessly because, okay, kinig. The first one is planning. Okay, I really do believe that dapat lagyan to nila ng planning with objectives. Pero who am I to put that one? Hindi naman ako nag-aral ng malalim pa regarding kay metacognition. So according to book and my research, the first phase is planning. During planning phase, learners think about the learning goal of the teacher has set. Okay, the teacher has set. So, ano itong learning goal na si teacher nag-set? Ito ang tinatawag natin na objectives. Okay, let us consider objectives all over and all over again. Kahit pa siguro pagising natin sa umaga, magmuni-muni tayo, ano kayong objective ko for the day? What is my goal for today? So, sometimes some people write down the objectives for the day so that after niyang magawa yung task, may checklist siya. Nagawa ko ba to? Is it efficient, effective, or magbago ako ng strategy tomorrow morning? Okay, again, example, plano mo, pag magising mo sa umaga, late na naman ako. What will I do? Okay, bago tayo ng strategy, matulog ako ng maaga. Pagkakinabukasan, pag itulog mo ng maaga, late ka pa rin pagising mo. Okay, magbabago ka ulit ng strategy. So, paulit-ulit, no? So, as you can see, an endless facing. Kasi you have to plan, monitor, and evaluate yourself. Ganon din po sa learning. Okay? So, of course, during the planning phase, learners think about the learning goal of the teacher has set. That is the objectives. After considering the objectives, then consider how they will approach the task and which strategy they will use. Okay, ano yung mga strategy na gagawin? These stages is helpful for learners to ask themselves, what am I being asked to do? So, during planning, makakatulong sa learners, not only in the learners, it applies in general. Yun nga lang, sa education, ang pinaka-center sa learner. Kasi without learners, schools, teachers are useless. Kaya siya ang isa sa center. Aside from curriculum, siya ang importante. Okay? But it applies to all. Just try to reflect on our topic. Okay. Ano ang tipong ang unang tanong sa sarili mo, what am I being asked to do? Ano yung task ko? Okay, after which strategy will I use? After questioning that for yourself na tipong anong gagawin ko, anong sinabi ni ma'am na gagawin ko. Ngayon, kung alam mo na anong gagawin mo, ano ang strategy na gagawin ko o gagamitin ko sa ganitong task. Alright? So, yun yung planning. So, another question last sa planning. Are there any strategy that I have used before that might be helpful? Sometimes we have tried to reflect and pause for a moment in regards to planning. Try natin. Isipin muna natin na itong task na ito parang familiar siya regarding sa, for example lang ganitong theory. I-apply ko nga yun. Try ko nga. I-apply. After trying to apply, you have to reflect. Nag-align ba siya sa task? Then, sometimes, sa mga dati mo pang techniques, dati mong strategies, minsan nag-a-apply yun. Kasi nga, gamay mo na yun. Alright? So, next phase is monitor phase. So, learners implement their plan and monitor the progress they are making towards their learning goal. So, by monitoring, na-implement na ito, na-execute na ang task. Okay? So, under this one, nag-monitor na lang sila if may progress ba wala. For example, yung previous ninyo na research. Okay? Previous research. Diba? After planning, after the planning, what to do, sino-sino ang mga tatanungin, i-evaluate regarding sa questionnaires. So, you monitored your progress. Natapos na ba to tapos na ba tong title? Tapos na tayo. How about the abstract? Sinong gagawa naman ng title? Tapos na ba tong title? So, you have to monitor your progress. Okay? Na tipong naka-align pa rin po sa learning goal ninyo or sa objectives ninyo. So, some of the learners might decide to change the strategy they are using if it's not working. Do not lose hope if you change the strategy, if you change all over again. Kasi nga, sabi nga, doon palang pag-monitor mo, hindi na working, bakit mo pa itutuloy? Kagaya lang yan ng mga jowa ninyo. Alam mo namang hindi na kayo mag-work, pero tinutuloy nyo pa rin. Sasaktan tuloy kayo. So, as early as possible, if it is not working anymore, then stop it. Use another strategy for it. Alright? Okay po ba tayo doon? So, if okay, let's continue. So, under this, the question under for monitoring is the strategy that I am using is working? So, tanungin natin sarili, nag-work kaya? Kasi ma-observe, you have observed all throughout the process, all throughout the implementation, na meron kang progress. Namomonitor mo naman yan eh. Okay. Next question. Do I need to try something different? Okay. Etong second question na ito yung tipong broad siya. Unang-una, magtanong ka sa sarili mo nito if hindi working ang iyong strategy. Pangalawa, kung working ang una mong strategy, pwede mo siyang haluan ng another strategy. I-combine mo or may combination. Okay po ba tayo? Last is the evaluation or what we call the assessment. So, students determine how successful the strategy. So, by the end, sa evaluation, dito natin madidetermine kung successful ba, kung failure ba yung strategies na that we already used. Okay. They used was in helping them to achieve their learning goal. So, that strategy they used was in helping them to achieve their learning goals. This is to promote the evaluation. Student could consider the following questions then after the evaluation. How well did I do? So you have to try to ask yourself, gaano ba ako kagaling sa strategy na ito? Or sa task na ito na ginamit ko itong strategy? 'Di ba sabi ko nga nung planning pa lang, tinanong mo ang sarili mo kung ano yung previous mo na strategy na nagamit mo na before. So yun, pag ang certain task ay na-accomplish mo, i-keep mo na yung strategy na yun. Or sometimes parang ibaon mo siya sa baol. Yung i-store mo na siya na, ano to, kailangan ko tong, parang i-note na ganito ang ginawa ko. Okay po ba tayo doon? Next question. What didn't go well? So, ito yung mga tanong na hindi nag-workout ang strategy. Kagaya ng pagmamahalan ninyo, hindi rin nag-workout. Okay, next. What went well? So, at tanongin natin ang sarili, saan doon banda or anong certain part ng strategy ang nakatipong nag-ayos talaga nun sa task ko. Okay? Kung groupings, is it the leader or is it our performance, our unity? So you have to indicate or emphasize na ano yung what went well during your task. Or kung individual naman, ano yung mga processes mo na tipong na-apply mo, strategy na na-apply mo na nagpaayos sa gawa mo. Is it putting love and effort in everything? Or is it about the inspiration or ikaw mismo and the strategy? So, nakadepende. Then, after that one, as you can see sa pinakagitna, we try to reflect. Okay? Reflection is fundamental part of the plan. Monitor, evaluate, process. So, siya ang fundamental part ng planning, monitoring, and evaluation. So, all of us, not just learners, encourage to reflect in order to have self-question throughout the process will support this activity or the task. So, we have tried to reflect in every way that we will going to do. Okay? Not only in the certain task, but of course, ano yung na-accomplish natin all throughout the day. Simple lang yan. Metacognition is already present. Alright. So, all throughout this course, you will be encouraged to reflect upon metacognition and to think about how you can integrate it into your own classroom practice someday or in the near future. So, examples of metacognitive activities include planning, how to approach a learner's learning task, using appropriate skills and strategies to solve a problem, monitoring one's own comprehension of text, self-assessing and self-correcting in response to the self-assessment. So, evaluating progress towards the completion of a task and becoming aware of distracting stimuli. So, of course, you have to be very aware ano yung mga distractions sa'yo. So, this is all about the metacognitive. So, as you can observe, part po siya ng pre-test natin last week. Okay? So, in metacognitive teaching, this is the second question, I think. In metacognitive teaching, teachers are trained to become aware of and exert control over their own learning by using metacognitive processes. So, the answer is false. Because, as you can see, the highlighted word is teachers. Hindi po si teachers ang ititrain. It is the student ang ititrain natin. Ano yung magiging aware nila sa paligid nila. And of course, they have to control or sila ang mag-exert control sa kanilang learning process. Their own learning using or under the metacognitive processes. So again, we have 3. The planning, the monitoring, and the evaluation. And then the last one is the reflection. Okay? Alright, so sana nasagot na natin ang pretest na question na ito. False po ang answer dito. Because learners po ang kailangan i-train, hindi po ang teacher under metacognitive teaching. Okay. So we have 7 strategies that improve metacognition. The first one is to teach students how their brains are wired for growth. So we will taught children's, or not only children's, students na naka-connect po ang brains sa development nila. Okay? Because pag wala silang natutunan, minimal lang ang growth nila, minimal lang yung progress nila, minimal lang din ang development nila. So, pinaka-perfect example, when I used to tutor one of my friends, a nephew and nieces, nag-request din yung boy nila, yung katulong nila na lalaki, na i-tutor din siya. At least alam niya yung pangalan niya. Then, first I asked the age. Ano edad ka? Then he answered, 27. So sabi nga natin, mahirap pastulin ang matandang kalabaw. But, as an educator, of course, I try my very best na hindi ipinagkait sa kanya. And for that, hindi ako nagpabayad sa kanya. Parang in-spare ko yung time ko para sa kanya kahit 1 hour or 30 minutes. Nung unang process, 30 minutes muna kasi I know magbabago o pati pong maninibago yung brains niya. Siyempre, magigising yung brains niya. Uy, ano yun? Ano yung tinuro na yun? Bago yun na, hindi naman yun pagwawalis ha. So, of course, magigising si brain cells. Baka sumakit bigla yung ulo niya sa ituturo kong alphabets or numbers kasi yung ano niya, yung nasa level pa kasi siya ng kinder. Pero yung edad niya dapat pang doctorate or masteral na or college na. So, syempre, I have to downgrade my expectations. Kasi nga, ganun na edad na rin. And then, after a while for that, tinuruan ko muna siya ng pangalan niya, pinamemorize ko muna. Sumasakit na yung ulo niya. Then, I explained to him na bakit sumasakit ang ulo mo? It's because your brain are wired for growth. And by that, by simply writing your name, nag-register na yun sa utak mo. And it means growth. Okay? Growing na po yun, development na po yun. Dinamay siya, tuwang-tuwa siya. Tapos, na-accomplish namin yung task, na nakasulat talaga siya ng pangalan niya, na-memorize niya, and then nag-colors din kami. Parang talaga akong bumalik sa bata. Then you see, metacognition is present. Is already present. Hindi ko lang namalayan. Present na pala. Because I use different strategies. I fail, I success. Then I fail again, then I success. So maraming application na pwedeng mangyari sa buhay talaga, no? When it comes to metacognition. Okay, next. Give students practice recognizing what they don't understand. For example, in mathematics, you have to give, before starting your discussion or before and after discussing, give a practices, give an activity, or try to evaluate na tipong hindi pa talaga nila maintindihan, then of course, you have to plan again. You have to execute another, implement another, then monitor. After that, you try to evaluate, okay? So that the student may understand your lesson. Okay, kasi nga sabi nga natin, especially that we have facing K-12, no student left behind. Okay, next. Provide opportunities to reflect on coursework. So, ipa-reflect natin, diba, sabi nga, diba, fundamental, si reflection kay planning, monitoring, and evaluating. Next, have students keep learning journals. So some of the teacher requires learning journal all throughout the course or all throughout the subject. Tapos nandun yung mga activities. Then they will try to reflect kung saan sila nahihirapang activity o ano yung mga na-accomplish nila na activities. Okay, next. Use a wrapper to increase students' monitoring skills. For this fifth sentence, this will be your assignment. Let us see. Do not share this one. Let us see kung sino talaga ang nakikinig sa aking discussion via YouTube. So for number 5 na statement, using a wrapper to increase students' monitoring skills, this will be your assignment. Expound and explain what is the meaning of this statement. Okay, so 6, consider essay versus multiple choice exam. So, multiple choice exam kasi siya yung hindi siya critical level na thinking. So, hindi siya kasali sa critical thinking or what we call the HOTS na questions or HOTS na assessment. Okay? In ASLR yan eh. Sa ASLR ituturo yan. What do we mean by HOTS? It is the higher order thinking skills. So, si essay po is considered as one of the HOTS. One of HOTS na tipong assessments. Of course, then modified true or false, kasali din po yan siya. Okay, next. Last one is to facilitate reflexive thinking. For facilitating the reflexive thinking, so reflexive, ibig sabihin, wait lang. Okay, so let's go back or facilitate reflexive thinking. So for this, reflexive thinking, from the word reflexive, it means him, himself, herself, yourself, myself. Okay, ibig sabihin akin. Okay, what do you mean by this? Okay, reflexive thinking or learning is a type of learning in which one explores or which the learners explores his or her experience to become more conscious, open-minded, and self-critical. So that's the meaning of the to facilitate reflexive thinking. Kung ano ang ikaw as a teacher, you have to facilitate their ideas to be open-minded, to open or to have the critical thinking na skills regarding on the topic. Okay? So, thinking about thinking or learning how to learn refers to higher order thinking. Ito yung HOT, wala lang S. Okay, which involves active awareness and control over the cognitive processes engaged in learning. So, Flavel further divides metacognitive knowledge into 3 categories. Ito na yung pang second part na natin sa chart as you can still remember. So, knowledge is of a person, variables, 3 categories ha. Knowledge of person variables. The second one is the task variables. And the last one is the strategy variables. So for this 3, we will include this discussion on our next meeting. So next meeting, we will tackle these 3 variables. Okay? So let's try to go back again Metacognition, thinking about thinking, we have three phases, right? We have planning, monitoring, assessing, and evaluating. And then the heart or the fundamental of the three phase is the reflection. Okay, we are now down to metacognition knowledge variables. So try to see our chart. Okay, so guys, I hope you learned something from me today. I hope you stay well and stay safe, everyone. Let's discuss your questions and your another ideas regarding on the metacognition under Module 1. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.